thanks a lot for joining today's session. As I say, we will be using Vevox throughout this session for getting questions, and which we will answer at the end, where we've got a dedicated Q&A session. So for those of you who haven't joined it already, if you want to open up your phone and go to vevox.app and then enter the meeting ID, which is 125644706. It's worth noting, actually, Matt's going to be showing off the new dashboard, which is coming in a couple of weeks' time. This Vevox session that you'll be using is only going to be used for Q&A, because it's still in a sort of production environment. It's not sort of available you can start using yet, but we've got some people internally on standby to answer the questions that Matt's going to be demonstrating, so we can show you how that looks. Cool. Okay, so let's have a look at the agenda today. So as I've said, we've got this update to the dashboard and some new features which are scheduled for release on November the 16th. So we're going to give you a little walk through that new dashboard, which Matt's going to do. We're also going to show you, as part of that, some of the new features. So the ability to do images within questions, and then also do an XY plot type question. And as usual, at the end of it all, we will have Q&A to answer any questions that you send in. So please do use the Vevox app that we've got set up for asking those questions, and we will try to answer those at the end. So as we do every time, let's just want to ask you guys a quick poll, just find out what the sort of experience is like on this webinar. So what we want to know is this your first what's new and what's next webinar? And if you just answer yes or no, I've attended one before, or no, you've attended a few. That's cool. Matt, can we close that now? Brilliant. Cool. That's a really nice mix, but it's always really great to see so many new people. Actually, it does always seem to be the largest demographic when we ask this question. So yeah, great. Welcome. Great to have you here. Cool. In the interest of time, because I know how much there is to get through, I'm going to hand over to Matt, who is our product head, and he is going to take you through the new Vevox dashboard, which is coming in a few weeks' time.
Thanks, Joe. Yes, so there is a lot to get through today. So, and that's mainly down to the fact that visually you'll be seeing a lot of changes coming to your dashboards in a couple of weeks' time. And this is part of the process to prepare you for what you can expect with that. So again, Joe said, but just to clarify, here I'm in a demonstration environment, and the sessions I have are different to the one that you joined at the start of this webinar. You will not be able to access these sessions from your app, just to make you aware of that. So let's get into it. First off, we're sitting here on our sessions list, and first minor difference, it's a small one, but worth calling out. We'll be referring to Vevox sessions rather than meetings going forward. So you can see at the top here we have create session. And this comes as our product has evolved into being used in many different scenarios, not just meetings. And we want to find a way to describe it in a more universal way. So, you know, you already have your meeting, or your class, or your event, or presentation. And we like to think of Vevox as being complementary to those. So it's a Vevox session that will be used in your meetings and classes, etc. So let's jump into one of my sessions and we can take a look at some of the changes. So here we are, and straight off you'll be seeing some visual differences. So firstly, I'll talk a little around what we're seeing for a bit of orientation. And as it's the most obvious striking change, I will address it first. And that is over here on the right-hand side of the screen. We have this ever-present thumbnail view of what we call our present view. Now, we've gone over present view many times in these webinars, and it's what we consider the best and easiest way to run your session and display it to an audience. But we'll come back to this again as we step through the new dashboard. So elsewhere, over on the left-hand side, we have our main navigation, main content items as usual, and then below them some further links to sort of useful resources and information, and importantly down here as well our help center. Just a quick note as well, if you use a smaller screen and you want to free up a bit of space, or as you become a bit more familiar with the dashboard, you can always minimize that menu by clicking this hamburger in the top right hand corner, and again you can maximize it out again. So then just over here we've got a banner at the top of our screen telling us that our session has not started yet. So for people to obviously join and take part, we have to start this session. So I'm going to do that now. And again, just to reiterate, you won't actually be able to join this through your apps. We can see as I've started that session, my little present view thumbnail has changed where it said the meeting was not started previously. Now that present view is ready to go. And now just at the top here as well, we have our sort of information panel. If I just hover over here, we can see that the session has started, how many devices are connected, and also just links where we can open the participant app directly from here in a new tab, or copy the link to that, or view the session invitation, and that's just instructions you can send out to your participants in advance of the session so they know how to join. Also, just over here in the top corner, this is just an ever-present counter of the number of participants that have joined. So you can see this has gone up to 3. So these are a few people that I have just joining this session to help with putting some results in. So kicking things off, we're currently in our polls section. And we can see we've got nothing created. We've got this empty state here. And I want to get going with my first poll. So I can grab one of our sample polls from the selections down here. But actually, what I want to show is the poll creation method. So I'm going to come through here and press Create New. So as we can see, the design of the poll creation dialog is fairly visually different. However, functionality-wise, much of it remains the same. So I can select up here the type of poll that I want to run. So we've got all our poll types there. Now, you'll see at the bottom there, we've got the XY plot. Hopefully towards the end, a little bit later, I'll get time to address that. But I'm just going to kick off with a normal multi-choice question. And I'm going to type in where this. And this leads me on to our next sort of main feature, and that is bringing imagery into polls. So over here, I can press the insert image icon, and this brings up another little modal, which will allow me to either grab an image from my computer. I can click in here and find an image from my computer, or another nice little addition we've got is we've got this image library. If I click on the image library, we can select any of these sort of pre-prepared images that are already there. Now, this is a third-party image library that we've teamed up with. It's fully searchable, so you can search for all sorts of stuff in there and grab any images out, just to make it very easy to set up your image questions. Now, I'm going to pop in Colosseum, which I spelt wrong again. So let's grab an image of the Colosseum and save that. And then I'm just going to put in a few options. One more. And then obviously set the correct answer. So it is, of course, the Colosseum in Rome. And I'm going to create that question. So now we have our first poll. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed this extra little thing that's appeared just below the present view thumbnail. And this is just telling me about the quiz leaderboard. So this has appeared now because I've added my first correct answer question. So it knows that I've got a poll that can contribute to the leaderboard, but as yet we have no data. So we have our poll, and I'm going to go straight in and present it to you. So to do that, I'm going to come over to my present view panel. And as we said before, we have a few options around present view. So I can open it directly full screen in this view that I've got now to go straight into it. Or I can open it in a new tab if I want it on a separate tab. So I've got my present view and dashboard open at the same time. Or just like we can do at the moment as well, we can create a link to share this so it can be opened on a different device. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to open present view in this current window so we can see it open straight away in full screen. And now I'm just going to go straight in and open up that first poll, or the only poll, I should say. So you can see
it's worth noting, Matt, sorry, that again, this is within our development environment, so this isn't being pushed out to the Vevox session that you guys are in. So don't worry that you can't see it on your on your Vevox app.
That's right, and I'll bring in an app in just a moment so you can see what it will look like for participants. So with the poll open, we can see obviously we've got our image on the screen and we've got our options. Now what I can do is click on the image to enlarge it, to make it clearer for the audience to see. And if you'll just bear with me, I will grab a participant app, and I'm just going to drag this over on the screen. I'll put it over here just so you can see what participants will be seeing from their devices. So they obviously see the image on their device as well, and the options. I'm going to pop in my response there as Rome, and I'm just going to move that again away off the screen. So there's our poll. I'm going to close it now. So as we close it, we'll see the results appear. So the image that I had that was enlarged will obviously appear so that the results can be displayed. And that basically is our image poll. Obviously, what I can do is come in and show the leaderboard. Obviously, with one question, we're not really going to get much useful information on our leaderboard there. So I'll just close that again, and I'm going to exit the full screen mode now. So we come back to our dashboard. And when I do come out of full screen mode, you'll be able to see this leaderboard down in the bottom right corner here. So this is an ever-present permanent visualization of our leaderboard. So if, for example, you are operating this from two screens, where you have your dashboard on one and your present view on another, you'll always be able to see and keep up with the leaderboard before you publish it to your participants. And you can publish it just by pressing display leaderboard, and we can see there in our little thumbnail how that appears. I'm just going to close that again. And of course, you can operate your polls from this view as well, if you so wish. So now moving on quickly to Q&A. There isn't too much I want to dwell on here. All of the sort of functionality in Q&A remains. A small addition we have is when the Q&A board is empty, as it is at the moment, we have a little sort of, you can send out a host message, and we have a few sort of suggested conversation starters ready there, so you can get the ball rolling for your Q&A board. So I'm just going to send one of those out now. And again, in our little thumbnail of present view, we can see that has now been published to the audience as well. Regarding the rest of Q&A, there's no other sort of grand changes to discuss. We've still got the ability to turn Q&A on or off, and of course the option to turn moderation on or off. And those are in our settings menu, which I will discuss shortly. So now let's move on to surveys. And again, with surveys, regarding functionality, not too much has changed. We've altered the sort of the visualization, the flow of setting them up slightly, just to make it a little bit easier. But what I'm going to do is import. Let's import some of these So I'm just going to import some of our sample surveys so we can get a feel for it. So I've imported these. I can expand that down and see all the questions that are in our survey. Obviously, I can start the survey from here as well. So the one major difference we've made with surveys, which has come from some feedback, and that's relaxing some of our strict rules around making changes after a survey has already started. So current users might be aware that right now, when you start a survey, it's not possible to edit the survey, for example, to add new questions to it once it's started. Well, now we've sort of taken some of those editing restrictions away. So whilst a survey is live, you can still go in and add in, a question. Forgive my imagination. Just put something in there. Pop that in, and we can see that has been added into the live survey, and that automatically populates on people's devices as well. So that's just a small note to make around surveys, how we've hopefully made that a little bit easier and removed a frustration that many people had. The next bit I want to discuss is data. Now, because this is just a test meeting, we don't really have much data in this. So I'm just going to come out of this meeting, or this session, back to our sessions list, and I'm going to go into one I prepared earlier. So if I just jump into this one and now go to the data tab, we can have a little look at what sort of data you can expect to see here. Now, looking here, I'm just going to whiz through some of this stuff up at the top here. So we've got a bit of a summary of our data. So just looking at some of these numbers, we have our total participants. So that is obviously the total number of people that joined through the app. The number of active participants. So that's the total number of people that did something during the app, during this session. And by did something, what we mean there is people that answered a poll or answered a survey, sent in a question or liked a question. So, people who have actually participated using the app in this session. Next, we have interactions, and this is a bit of a sort of vanity number perhaps, but it's a good way just to gauge how much interaction has gone on throughout your session. So this is a total of all of those things I previously listed, such as poll responses, question likes, questions sent in. So a total number of all interactions that your participants have performed in the session. And then the last one over here, we have participation rate. And this is perhaps the best number to benchmark and to keep track of. It's a percentage of those first two numbers. So it gives you a good idea of the proportion of your audience that is engaging through the app during a session. So moving down below that summary, we have the rest of our results split up into different tabs here. So we've got poll results, Q&A results, and survey results. And then for each one, again, we've got a bit of a summary of just some stats. So the polls in numbers, and these are figures specifically around polling. So how many people answered polls, what was the participation rate for polling, and such like. And then again, coming down, we have visual representations of all of those results. So all the polls that were asked. And again, you can come in and download any of these as images if you wish. Moving over to Q&A, same again. So we've got a bit of a summary just for the Q&A stats. So again, a Q&A participation rate. And then we have a bit of a summary of the most liked Q&A messages that you can look through there. And then just lastly, to finish that off, same again for surveys. So some stats around how surveys were used, and then our surveys down here. And if I just expand the survey out, this breaks down all the questions within the survey. And again, like polls, visual representation, we can download these as images as well. Coming back up to the top, we still obviously have the all-important data report, which provides an Excel worksheet of all the raw data. Obviously, we also have the ability to clear all of the data from our session as well and start afresh. And the last sort of feature on the data page I want to talk about is this share feature. So similar to sharing the present view link, we can also share this data page. Now I can create a public link of this, so that's deactivated at the moment, but I can switch that on, and it generates a URL which I can copy, and I can share this URL with anybody, and they will have access to view these data results. Now, obviously, this is a public link, so anybody that has it will be able to access this data. So, of course, if you desire, you can add a password to password protect it, and also, if you've shared it and you no longer want people to access it, you can just switch the public link off, and then people will no longer be able to access that. But I'm just going to open up a new tab and paste that in. Just to show you what those people will see when they get that data tab. And as you can see, it is just a representation of that data that we were looking at. So again, all of those breakdowns, all of those images that they can download and look at. But importantly, all the other navigation is stripped out. It's purely that data page, and they don't have the ability to get in and manipulate with the rest of that session. So let me just close that again. So the last main area to touch upon is our settings menu. So if I just open the settings up, we can see here we've consolidated all of our sort of various settings into this one area now. So on this first tab, we can see just the general setup stuff, where we can change the name of our meeting. And this is also where we come if we want to customize the app home screen. So where we can change the image that appears in the participant app on the home screen. We can add in our description and title of the session. If I come over to features, so as I mentioned before around the Q&A, this is where we come to either enable or disable the Q&A, turn moderation on and off, and then we've also got all of our other various settings around polling and present view. Then moving across again, we have our theme. So we've now consolidated our present view and our app theme. So if we just hover over some of these tooltips, we can see this logo is what will appear, or you can replace this logo to appear in present view. So you can have a different logo in your present view. And then again, when we come down to the general theme, we have some standard present view themes that you can choose. Or if you go into customize, you can choose your own colors. So again, here we have the main color. Now this will change the main color used in your participant app. It will also change the background of present view, unless of course you have a background image, which will overwrite that in present view. And then we have our highlight color, and that's what's used to display sort of the voting results and things like that. And then the last one is just the sharing. If you have if you want to share access to your meeting with another sort of co-host who's part of your account, you can do that from here. You just come in, you can type in their name or email address to find them, and you can share that with them there. Then that really sums up a bit of a whirlwind tour of the dashboard. Let's have a quick check on time. We have a little bit of time. So what I wanted to now squeeze in was just a little bit around the XY plot question that we addressed at the start of the session there. And I'm just going to come back out to the meeting I was in before. And I'm going to come in here and create a new question. And this time I'm going to come down and select our XY plot question. Now, the purpose of this question type is to rank items against each other based on certain criteria. So the most common example of this would be around risk analysis, where you're comparing the likelihood of something happening versus the impact it would have. And there's other sort of scenarios you can use, sort of cost benefit, things like that. So I'm just going to title of these items. And the criteria we're going to be rating them on is their likelihood and their impact. These are obviously editable, so you can change those criteria there. And we're going to be rating them out of 5. Again, we can adjust that, but I'm going to leave that as it is. And I'm just going to put in a few risk items. Again, forgive my imagination. Flooding. What else should we do? And let's be topical. Checking a global pandemic. And we'll create that question type. So to show this off, again, I'm just going to go into present view and we will open up that question. Now I'm going to switch real-time results on here just so we can see what happens. And again, I'm just going to drag in my example of that participant app. So this is what participants will see on their devices. So they can rate these items according to their likelihood and impact. So flooding, recession, and let's put in global pandemic, probably not that likely, but quite a high impact. And I'm going to send those results in. Now, I've got a few people who've also been sending results in here as well. So we can see that that chart has animated slightly. What I'm going to do is actually close this now to stop the responses coming in. So what we're seeing here are the averages of all of the participants that voted on this poll. And what I can do is I can hover over and click on one of these items, and that drills down into, so we can see 4 people responded on this. That drills down into the individual responses of what those 4 people put and how we reached this this average of where that plot point should go. And I can obviously do that for click on all of the different items there. Now, one of the purposes for this, or one of the reasons behind this, is it being a bit of a sort of conversation starter. I mean, I can see over here, obviously, one person's ranking this as being not very likely, whereas some people over here are ranking this as being moderately likely. And the idea behind this is so you can see that drill down to spark a bit of a discussion. So like, well, why is one person ranking it so lowly versus another person who ranks it quite highly? So that's just a quick little rundown of our XY plot question. Now, just before we move back over to the Q&A, or actually I'll just prepare for that. If I can remember where I am. Yeah, just before I hand over to Joe for the Q&A, just a quick note on the Q&A from last time around when we did one of these. We got a lot of questions last time around integrating with Microsoft Teams. And I think back in August or September time, we brought out an integration with Microsoft Teams. And I'm pleased to say that Microsoft have been working hard on their end to improve the way that they integrate with third-party tools, or how they allow third-party tools to integrate with Teams. Don't think they've publicly released it yet, but it should be coming shortly. And we've been working in tandem with them on a new Microsoft Teams integration, which will offer some great improvements about how Teams calls and meetings can work well with Vevox. So more on that in the coming weeks, as and when we can update you all on it. So with that, Joe, should we get into the Q&A?
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much, Matt. There are loads and loads of improvements, enhancements, new features in there, which are really exciting. So massive congratulations to you and your team. For putting all that together. It's brilliant. I don't want to scare you, Matt, but we've got lots of questions that have been coming in, so we probably ought to get to answering them. So the question that got the most likes in here. So when you create a poll, can you later integrate it into a PowerPoint presentation, or does it only work by creating Vevox polls in slide deck and then linking to an empty Vevox session? So yeah, I mean, I can answer this. You do, if you're using the PowerPoint add-in, you do need to create all of your polls within PowerPoint using that add-in, and then once they're run within PowerPoint, the data from that poll is then uploaded and stored within the Vevox session that you've connected it to. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in the other way around, where you create a session within the Vevox dashboard. So you do need to create it within PowerPoint for that. Anything to add to that, Matt?
Not really, no. I think just the only point is that linking it to an empty Vevox session, it doesn't have to be an empty Vevox session you link it to. You can link your PowerPoint presentation to any Vevox session. But yeah.
Good point. Yeah. So this one, will you be sending out information packs about these updates? I am okay at taking notes, but aware I may miss things. So yeah, we do record these sessions, and this recording will be put up on our YouTube channel. But we also release a blog alongside all of our releases, and we'll be updating our help site. So I think watching the recording is a nice way of watching at your own pace and skipping ahead to sections that you want a bit more sort of clarity on. So yeah, all of those will become available. I think a link was posted out to our blog within this chat shortly after this question was asked. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, just I think a couple of quick points on that. I mean, as Joe said, yeah, this webinar will be up on YouTube probably as of tomorrow, so you can always rewatch it. We've started some communications. I think we've sent out an email already with information to that blog. We will, I think, between now and this release, which is, again, just to reiterate, on the 16th of November, we'll be sending out some more comms around that as well. And I think we'll be pushing out an alert to your current dashboards, which will contain a link where you can get more information about obviously what's coming. And then, when it does arrive, of all our updated help site and help articles as well.
Cool. I think actually this question, can I suggest looking at doing some training like this when the platform is live? So I think yeah, all I'd add is obviously you got there will be the recording of this to be able to refer back to, but I know as well that all of our customer success teams, or everyone that that looks after all of our customers, will be doing all of their training and their customer support around this new dashboard once it is once it's live. So it's probably a good good opportunity to get in touch with the customer success team here, and yeah, we can certainly provide kind of further training.
I think just the other one to add to that as well is from the dashboard as well, we have our live chat function. So when the dashboard goes live, you'll be able to use the live chat, which will you can either chat to a bot just for sort of some of your general questions and get referred off to sort of useful help articles, or you can obviously use the live chat to chat to a real person as well if you're having any difficulties or want to know more information.
Cool. So there's a question here about can we please hold these sessions on another platform, as Zoom is not an approved platform in my company. So yeah, this was something that we got. This is something that we got some feedback on actually once we'd advertised this webinar. So it is something that we're going to review internally about that. I can't really say any more on that until we've had the review, but that feedback has certainly been received, and yeah, our plan is to review it. Obviously, once we'd advertised and put out this webinar, it was felt that we couldn't really make any changes at that point. But yeah, going forward, it will certainly be up for a review. There was a question, well, not really a question, but a comment about our branded shirts, Matt. I think you were the only one wearing one at the time. I still had my jumper on, so it was obviously directed at you.
I think that might be directed at me. I don't often put my branded shirt on, so I know a lot of other members of the team do. So it might be a reference to me not wearing my shirt that often. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It actually leads on quite nicely to So we did this after our last couple of webinars. If you would, we've got quite a lot of sort of t-shirts, and actually our new item, we've got some Vevox branded beanie hats, which I think are going to be all the rage this Christmas. We are very happy to send that out to anyone who would like to leave a review of Vevox. If you're interested, just drop us an email at hello@vevox.com, and yeah, we can be in touch about how you can review, and yeah, how we can get some stuff sent out to you, if that's okay. Good change from meetings to sessions, especially in education. Yes, as someone myself who works in the education space, that's something I quite like in there. There's a question here, Matt, about why can't we use spaces in word cloud, and I'm not technically minded enough to answer that question, so I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way our sort of word cloud works. And we, when we first started doing the word cloud, it is specifically a word cloud rather than a phrase cloud or something like that. One of the reasons behind it is really just to try and get the word cloud appearing and looking quite nice. When you start to attach multiple words together, they can get quite long. If they get big, they perhaps don't fit, so they can get sort of chopped off. And I think we're always looking and reviewing how our word clouds look, and I think there are certainly improvements we want to make. So it's a consideration we can make for the future. I noticed on the one earlier, a few people string words together with a hyphen or something like that. But I think that's something we definitely want to look at, is that how can we make longer words or phrases appear in a nicer way on our word cloud, so they don't get too long or get chopped off. Which actually I think comes on to one of the other questions that's in there. There's the next one, which is how come word clouds don't show in the app? So yeah, that's a bit of feedback we get sort of quite a lot. All of our other question types, when we display the results come to the app. And again, it's a similar thing. It's just trying to actually get the word cloud to look nice on a small device. Now, just a bit of news I can give you on that. We are currently in the process of doing that. So the next release after this one, which we don't have a date for at the moment, but it's going to be sort of a bit more app focused. We are going to be bringing through the display of word clouds in the apps, and there will be some other sort of app-related features coming there as well. So that is on its way. So don't worry there.
Thanks, Matt. Cool, we answered this one. So there was a comment here about how do you deal with disruptive anonymous participants, and I think the answer is that there's a few different ways that you can, and it really, which one you choose to use, or which ones you choose to use, is really going to kind of depend on your it's going to kind of depend on your audience and what type of session that you're running. So in this session that we're currently running, and as we find a lot of Vevox sessions that are run, they are run anonymously because of all the benefits that can bring, freeing people up to be able to ask questions, awkward questions freely, respond to polls, without fear of being sort of judged. So there's all those benefits to anonymity, but this question raises a valid point. You can turn sort of profiles on, which means that people identify themselves when they join the session with a name, so that can help with it. You can also have the Q&A set up to be moderated. So this session that we've been using has been unmoderated, which means all the questions and the comments that you've sent in get published straight away. But you can switch on moderation, which means that the presenter has an element of control, so they can see the questions before they get published, and can then choose which ones or when they want to publish them. And you can also turn Q&A off. So it may be that actually the primary focus of the primary purpose, sorry, of using Vevox in the session that you're running, maybe just for polling. That might be a time where you want to have the Q&A, switched off because you just want people focused on those polls, and the Q&A isn't an appropriate feature at that time. So yeah, there's a few different things that you can use on their own or in tandem with each other, that can bring in those kind of elements of control to the conversation. Nice little description here, Matt, of those German festive cookies.
Yeah, for anybody who was late joining, that was the word cloud we did at the start, where I didn't know what Lebkuchen were. So
I think I saw that they were on sale in Lidl, Matt. So you might be able to pop out and get some later.
I'll add it to my list.
It's an interesting question. Where does the name Vevox come from? Slash meaning. Matt, do you want to answer it?
I'm not sure if we can give a wholly conclusive answer there, but obviously many of you know we had a name change. Where was it? A year and a half, 2 years ago now? I can't remember. Vevox, I think the Vox part of it really comes from the Latin, is it, for voice? I think the VE part was just something we added on there to make it sound nice. I'm not sure if there's much truth to it. Maybe one of our other members of staff can jump in. But I think internally we've sometimes referred to the VE standing for value every voice, but I'm not sure if there's truth to that.
Yeah, I've always been told it's value every voice. So that's the old wives' tale that I tell everyone. Cool, thank you for that. Yeah, here's a link to the blog. I think there's a couple of points that came in about the XY plots. People really liking this one, being great for the courses that a person runs. It's great. It's really nice. Obviously, when we release new features that people really like them. Here's a question, Matt. Will it be possible to have a needs review full screen just for moderators to select the good questions before going to the public?
Yeah, so this is another good suggestion, and something that is sort of quite high up now on our roadmap. The idea of sort of specific moderator displays. So obviously we have our present view, which is certainly for our presenting the display for the audience. But one thing we are currently looking at as well is moderator displays, and just around QA in general, just how to improve our Q&A and being a bit more versatile. And part of that includes this idea of moderator displays that could go to specific people rather than the audience, as it were.
Cool. Matt, I'm conscious of the time, and it's now 2:45. Should we stay on for? Have you got a couple more? Should we just stay on for a couple more minutes?
I'm happy to carry on for a couple more questions. I think just for, obviously we are sort of out of time. For anybody that has joined and does have to go, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for all the questions. But yeah, we will carry on for a few more minutes if that's all right.
Yeah, cool. Here's a question, Matt. Would you consider adding pics to answers for choice questions? I work with people with disabilities, and we use images to support understanding, so this would be cool. They love using the app to tell us things. I'll let you answer this one, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely something we are interested in looking at. And obviously, bringing imagery into questions is our sort of first step with this at the moment. But one of the advancements of that, which we've already discussed and started to think about, is bringing images not just into the title or to accompany the title of the question, but to accompany the choices or the options that you get to vote on as well. So that is absolutely something that we are looking at and that we want to improve upon our image in questions feature.
I think the only thing I would add to that is that I know from my sort of personal experience, Matt, how closely you guys in the product team and we listen to our customers about when we're designing new features, And what I would say, the person that sort of wrote this in, if you want to, kind of get in touch and expand on that use case a little bit more, please do, email us at hello@vevox.com, because having those conversations with our customers when we're designing these new features really really helps to make them not just an image poll. It makes it an image poll that's a fit for fit for purpose for our customers, and that's what we always strive to do when we're when we're building these things.
And I think just the other last thing to add there as well, in relation to this question, I've already obviously sort of teased one of the next things we're working on, which is our app again. And one of the main reasons we're doing a lot of work with our app is around accessibility. So improving the accessibility features we have within the app. Obviously, images can create a lot of difficulties around accessibility. So that's something we're also looking at. How can we bring images in and allow people to upload images whilst also maintaining sort of accessibility standards with like a description of the image and stuff like that. So definitely keen to expand upon that conversation further. If anybody would like to get in touch with us, hello@vevox.com if you want to start that conversation.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, should we do one more?
Yeah.
Cool. If I want to have profiles, but I don't want to show their names in the presenter view, will you place a hide profile button just for this?
So this is another interesting one, and it's I don't know if the people asking these questions have had a bit of an insight into what we're working on, but again, referring back to the app improvements that I sort of just mentioned before. One of the other things that we're looking to do with the apps is do a little bit more around identification, or how to identify people. So I think there's a previous question around anonymity. One of the things we're looking to bring in with our sort of refreshed app as well is app authentication. Now, and with app authentication, some various other sort of settings around how to manage identity during a session. So obviously with app authentication, it's got to be a little bit careful, because it starts to then, not become anonymous. One of the big drivers of this sort of technology is the whole anonymity aspect of it. But it's, how can you let your participants join, know who your participants are, but still want to retain that freedom for the participants to behave anonymously during a session. So I think in line with this sort of suggestion here, that's again something we are looking at doing. This idea of being able to authenticate people into a session. So you, as the host running the session, you can tell who's in, you can tell who's joined, but also allowing settings to hide their names so that their names don't appear to the rest of their peers and the other people participating in the session. So yeah, thanks for that comment, and another good suggestion, and that is something we are actively looking at.
Yeah, cool. That's a that's a good one that I'm looking forward to. Matt, it's 10 to 3, so I think we probably need to wrap it up. But I am conscious that there are and probably a number of questions we haven't managed to answer. So if you have asked a question we haven't answered it, do you want to get an answer from us, again, please just contact us at hello@vevox.com. We will go through all of these questions. If there's any themes or anything standing out, then we'll look to address those in our usual forums. But if there's nothing else, in the interest of getting this done before 3 o'clock, we will end it there. So thank you very much for joining us. As Matt says, we've got this update comes out, or scheduled for release, November the 16th. and there are further updates, in the roadmap to come, in the months ahead. So yeah, do keep an eye out for webinars associated with them. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and yeah, we'll look to see you soon.